Hey guys, how you going? And today we're going to talk about SS4 Vegeta again because Anthony topped again, so we got to get him back on. But yeah, sorry, we just kind of had to do it. So congratulations, Anthony. Blah blah blah. We've been through it all. Yeah, but congratulations.
I agree. Enough is enough. Just stop it.
Yeah, enough is enough. We need to ban SS4 Vegeta. Deck's too busted. No, okay. But for all serious, we've done the deck profile a couple times. And Anthony, you did a deck profile on which channel was it again?
On Android Stage Zero's channel.
Yep, so go check that out. If I remember, which hopefully Anthony will remind me, I will chuck in a link in the description to that down below. That channel a lot bigger than mine though, so like I doubt you would have come here without going there first because he's a good YouTuber. I'm like trash, but anyway, we're just going to actually go over the SS4 Vegeta and kind of how you want to play it into different matchups and just some insider trading from Anthony on how to top with the deck. But let's just get right into it. So, the first thing that Anthony and I have talked about is kind of like your win rate curve. So, this is how the deck's win rate goes depending on what turn it is. So, as you can see, early game, if you're playing against a deck that wants to win turn 1 and 2, you don't have the best chance in the world. But if you're playing against a deck that wants to win turn 7, turn 8, you got a pretty good chance of winning that. So just to kind of show you what it's like, King Vegeta is a pretty rough matchup. And then Dark Broly is another one where you're a bit below 50%. And then we've got decks like Soul Striker, Hatch, and Blue Baby, which win later towards the game where you just have a better win rate against them. So this is if you're looking to play a deck that has a better win rate as the game goes on, so you're expecting to play against more mid-range, mid or late game decks, this is a really good deck to pick up. And now, let's just talk about why do we choose SS4 Vegeta over any other leader. Now, I will let Anthony go into this a bit more detail, but to briefly summarize it, SS4 Vegeta charges where other leaders untap. And when you have a leader that untaps, it means you can't use all your energy at once, right? So, for example, if you're playing the Reboot Goku, you can only use 6 energies on offense, and then you can reuse like all 6 energies on defense because you untap that much. However, you can't use 12 energies on offense like SS4 Vegeta can. So that is, and same thing with Soul Striker, you can't tap 9 for a Tragedy Overground. You have to tap 5 for something and then untap 2 with leader. So that is the big difference. But Anthony, I will let you say more if you would like about why we choose SS4 Vegeta.
Yeah, sure. So blue in general across all the leaders has so many cards that can be used to untap or restand energy in one form or another that even the less energy efficient blue decks are still extremely energy efficient. So the benefit that that SS4 Vegeta gives you is the ability to maintain a hand size while still trying to go for ramp. Which, if you look at the two leaders sitting next to it there, Soul Striker and SS3, it's kind of a combination of the two. Whereas SS3 is going to ramp quickly, its hand size early game is very, very small, and as a result, it will get immediately killed by many aggro decks or even fast mid-range decks that can go underneath it. And Soul Striker is better against those, but isn't quite as effective in those, say, turns 3 to 5 slots that SS3 is so good at because it has a bigger hand size, but somewhat less energy usage than the SS3 would, and it hasn't ramped as quickly. The SS4 Vegeta finds that middle ground where it ramps up, but it does so without spending any cards from its hand. So although you don't get any actual energy untap, you get the ramp from the SS3 leader, which acts as the extra energy that you would get from untap with Soul Striker, and you get the hand of Soul Striker with an SS3-like deck as a result, just without the extra energy untap from the leader. So it's a middle ground of the two. What this turns into is a leader where you have to be much more accurate and specific as to which energy you use and how, because you don't get as much energy to play with as the other two decks, but you get more value out of the energy that you use and the ability to play bigger cards.
That does summarize it pretty well. Another fun one is you can also get the chance to attack twice with a leader, which is it's pretty cool. It's pretty
Yeah,
unique.
that's not to be underestimated.
Yeah, and the other thing is you can also play Tragedy early. We like Tragedy here. Tragedy, fun card.
Tragedy turn 5 is OP.
Yeah, you're a bad person, Anthony. All right. Moving on, what do we want to mulligan for? So this is a big part of every deck and every game you're going into. You want to know, when you're looking at those top 6 cards, you want to know what you're actually getting into and what cards you want to keep. For example, Anthony, real quick, how many cards are in your deck?
52.
52, right? So there is a pretty high chance. Now, while I'm talking through this, I am quickly just using the calculator, but there's a pretty high chance you're going to see one of these 2 guys. Now, both of these allow you to ramp early, and just Zeno, because you're just charging random stuff, Zeno enables your late game plays by picking up your energy and manipulating it, and UI Goku Kamehameha is also just a 15k combo power for 1 energy, which is pretty nuts.
It's important to note at this moment that I see in a lot of Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta decks that run various super combos, whether it be the Vegeta super combo or others. The reason that I think that it should be running Zeno at 4 is because it's the only super combo that you can actually play to draw a card and then combo it off when you attack. So it becomes an offensive combo card. The other ones are dead until you're at 4 or less life. So as much as the other super combos are worth it, this is why I've always run Zeno at 4 in the deck and why it's one of the mulligan targets.
Yeah, it is. And theoretically, mathematically, you have above a 90% chance of seeing one of these 2 just in that opening 6 cards, not to mention going back and mulliganing. You have a very good chance of seeing these guys. So do keep that in mind, which is why we've got 8 of them in here in total. But these are your 8 cards, well, I guess 2 cards that you want to generically keep against every matchup. Doesn't matter if you're playing against mid-range or late, these are really good to push damage in early to get the ramps. And if you're playing against aggro decks, that it doesn't really matter too much if you ramp or not, because they're just going to try to kill you. These are great defensive combo power. Is there anything else you want to say to these guys, Anthony, for now?
No, you summed it up well.
Cool. Alright, now let's go into the other mulligan guy. Baby Hatch. Now, very simply, if you see Baby Hatch, you keep Baby Hatch.
I agree.
Yeah.
Baby Hatch is a card which, if you see, you keep, but don't necessarily use it at the first opportunity. You use it when it feels right to do so, and that will be different in every matchup. But if you see it, you keep it because it's guaranteed to save you on a particular turn should you need it.
Yeah, having 2 turns in a row is pretty nice. But now let's moving on to King Vegeta, which is in particular we're talking about the first turn kill variant. King Vegeta is a deck that's able to kill you turn 1, turn 2 relatively consistently now, and being a deck that aims to play into like 4 to 8 energy zone is where this deck really pops off. It can be quite hard. However, these 3 cards are the ones you would like to keep. You got Protector of the People, which Anthony put in his build for the most recent tournament after FTK Vegeta became a thing. You're able to give your leader 5k every time your opponent attacks your leader, which is very useful. You got Sensor Beam, which is...
attack with a battle card.
Yeah, sorry, every time they attack with a battle card. You got Sensor Beam, which just gives your leader 5k and untaps energy, which is also very useful. And we've got Galactic Buster, which essentially just acts as another super combo as long as you have a 10k combo power card in your energy.
Now, it's really important to know that this deck actually runs 9 separate cards that are 1 cost 10k, so you're bound to have one of them on average in the early turns to charge, and it doesn't really matter what it is, whether it be an Android 17, a Baby Ape, a Majin Buu, or a Bojack. If you have a 1-drop 10k, the Galactic Buster on turn 1 defensively against King Vegeta is an extremely important play because it combos over the 19k crit Vegeta that they swing with to try and knock your life down. And avoiding that crit damage means that when they are pushing through that damage on turn 1 and 2, they're not removing the cards from your life for nothing other than with their field spell, which means you're still getting an extra 2 cards from your hand, and using the Galactic Buster still replaces itself. And if they try to pump it up, then a Galactic Buster plus another combo will still get you over that potential crit swing. So it's worth remembering that Galactic Buster, as powerful as it is with a Bojack later in the game, in an early aggro matchup, it's more important to use it immediately just to maintain that hand size and maintain your life.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And when you're looking at it in terms of hand advantage, when they play that crit Vegeta, they go even because they get a search the top 5 for a card, and then when they swing with it, if that hits, that's a life you lose, plus it's like another minimum 5k combo power in your hand that you lose for later on, which is why being able to not lose a card in hand, save that life, and combo over it just is immense. It really is just immense advantage. So that is very important one to keep. Besides that, is there any other lines of play that you really want to do against King Vegeta? We
Well,
don't have
the main line of play to remember with King Vegeta is that if you see a Zeno super combo and you happen to have a Galactic Buster, be ready to recycle that Galactic Buster on turn 2. Just because you will need it more than once in the game. And I only run 3 copies of Galactic because it gets clunky otherwise. But if you see one and you're able to recycle it to make it seem like you have more of them for that specific matchup is an extremely important thing to do.
Yeah, that is a very good note. We don't have it on this screen, but you'll see in a sec. Chilled Army Reinforcement is also another one that you can do. You can combo out, for example, of a Heartfelt Plea. If they manage to sack and hit Heartfelt Plea, you can combo out of that, plus get a blocker on the board. And unless they're paying 1 energy to remove it with their field spell, which they don't particularly want to do, that's stopping 2 attacks. So stopping a 30k triple strike in the case of Heartfelt Plea, as well as just another attack as a free blocker. So that is another one, which I would say is quite important. Would you agree?
I completely agree. That's why it's in there.
Alright, moving on to Dark Broly. And look at that, Chilled Army's Reinforcement. Now, Dark Broly is a bit more of a mid-range deck, as a little bit more, not too much, but it hits really, really tall and also goes wide. So it's not as easy as just sitting there with one bean, being able to out-combo everything. However, these cards on the screen will help, as well as cards like we just saw, like Galactic Buster is always going to help combo because it's essentially another super combo. Bean's always going to help. But these are the 3 really important ones. Being able to kill the Army's Reinforcement after they go Gogeta thwarting allows you to stop 2 attacks just for 1 life, which is quite nice. It also means they don't get a combo step to just activate battle with their leader to get stuff away from their board. Dimension Magic untaps energy, stops, for example, a thwarting attack, which is really good. And Ultra Instinct Goku Kamehameha allows you to combo out of a thwarting attack when you're awakened. Gosh, it's like thwarting's a good card or something, Anthony.
I know. Thwarting is an insanely good card, and UI Kamehameha are able to combo over it is an excellent amount of value. 1 card from your hand to avoid a 25k double strike is very nice. I would also add that although you can use Chilled's Army to get out of 2 potential Broly attacks, if you have the option to, it's often better to take the 1 life to Sparky Negate with a D-Magic, untap 2, and then actually pay 2 for Chilled. That way you get out of 3 attacks for the 1 life.
Makes sense. Smart man. Very, very smart man. This is why we listen to Anthony. Yeah, it's little lines of players like this, and I'm assuming so for those who don't know, the really annoying turns against Dark Broly is their turn 3, and then subsequently their turn 4, as they still have a lot of pressure, and you generally don't have too big of a hand because you only barely survive their turn 3. So going into these 2 turns, if you have Protector in hand, Anthony, are you using it on turn 3 or are you saving it for turn 4?
I would save it for turn 3.
Yep.
Turn 4 is typically when you have a Unison in play, the turn that you would activate Hatch if you happen to have it, and you would have maybe had the opportunity to play an SS4 or a Unison or something else that sets up another layer of defense that helps stabilize the game. But it's really that turn 3 that a Protector could potentially come in handy.
Yeah, no, that is very good. Turn 3. Being able to Protector means after about 2 attacks, after 3 attacks, your leader is at that 30k, so their 30k swings are no longer just 30ks.
Yep.
Such a funny thing, Dark Broly players. Yeah, just 30. Now, a couple of other things against the Dark Broly matchup is Anthony does run the 3-drop Gohan. That is a Barrier Deflect Blocker Revenge. A lot of the time, unless you have nothing else in hand, this is a bit of a trap because they can simply remove it with a Gogeta Fearless Fusion.
And You can actually play it even into a Gogeta Fearless Fusion, but it really depends on the other cards in your hand. If you have Sparking Negates, Child's Army, Zeno Super Combos, and things to restand the energy, and it really doesn't matter to you whether they actually kill it or not, then it can be worth it simply to bait the usage of the one energy. But if the energy usage matters to you, or the 5k combo power of the Great Saiyaman matters to you, then don't play it.
Yeah, indeed. It is a very situational card, but a lot of the times, don't just shotgun it thinking you've got a good amount of defense, because it will just die a lot of the time. And the next thing that you have mentioned to me in the past, Anthony, is unless if they're swinging 10k at you with their leader, and you have a certain type of hand, which I'll let you explain. Sometimes you want to combo out of this as just losing one card in hand to stop a 10k.
A random extra card like a Great Saiyaman or an SS4 Vegeta or a random one-drop Majin Buu or something like that, and you have them in hand, you're not going to need them until much later in the game, and by then you would have drawn into other threats. So if they attack with a 10k leader and they just say no combos 10k, and the other cards in your hands you don't necessarily need, it is actually worth comboing over that attack in turns 1 and 2, just because it means you'll have a bigger life bar for that turn 3 when they actually go off. Defending against Dark Broly from 6, 7, or 8 life is much, much easier than defending from 4 or 5.
Yeah, that is a very important point, because if you just lose one card in hand to combo out of a 10k swing, that is so much better than having to lose 4 cards in hand for comboing out of a 30k. And even though you lose that card early, it's really worth it. Yeah. All right, now we'll move on to where this. Yeah, I'll move on to where this deck is really powerful, and that's the mid game. Now we have 3 different cards on the screen, all of which are kind of turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 plays. Majin Buu, Assault of Agent Destruction, is the best unison in the game. Simply, you draw a card, you untap it at the end of the turn, and untap one of your mono blue energy. It's a double striker, so it puts pressure on. There's not too much interactions with unisons in the game, so you go double strike. It's a blocker, and also has an auto. You may bottom deck one of your opponent's battle cards when they swing with the battle card. A lot of mid-game pressure. Ultimate Absorption Majin Buu is a dual attack 25k triple striker that can slurp up one of your opponent's battle cards. And finally, Bojack on a Rampage is a dual attacker double strike that draws a card, bottom decks one of their cards, and if they swing when this card's in rest mode, they have to switch energy to rest mode while you get an untap energy. These cards do a lot, but I'll let you explain which situations you want to use which of them, Anthony.
Okay, so the unison is obviously the most important one, as it's the big stabilizer and additional draw engine. The bigger discussion comes around the Majin Buu versus the Bojack, and there are a lot of people who are unsure as to when and how to use Majin Buu. Bojack is simple enough. You can play it on your opponent's turn, and your opponent has to get round it, because if they don't, their energy is going to get rested, and so you'll be able to restand another energy. The Buu you have to treat like it's a second Bojack, but it's an offensive Bojack. It's a Bojack that still will clear a threat. It will still potentially swing twice. You play it into a moment where your opponent can't immediately easily counterplay it, or where its triple strike comes in handy. So, for example, if you're trying to kill a unison, having a triple strike on a unison means if they don't have a negate, their unison dies. And if they are hoping to defend their unison or leader with blockers, it's just going to get round the blockers because it's going to suck them up with the auto when it attacks. It is a fairly big threat, comparable in size to a Bojack, that simply requires a better understanding of timing as to when you play it. You're not going to play it as easily as the Bojack, simply because you don't do it on your opponent's turn. But if you have the spare energy and you've already got like a unison on board, even sometimes beforehand, but usually with the unison already on the board, you could play a 1-drop, try and play a 7-drop Buu, and if your opponent can't answer it, then it's going to create a very annoying situation for them, where you could choose to swing twice, you could choose to swing once, suck up a card, leave it in active mode, and it's a very big body. It's a 25k triple strike that can do damage and things every single turn. The Bojack is essentially just another Buu, but played on your opponent's turn. So it's a bit more. It's not so much a surprise because they concede in your energy, but it's something that it adds additional pressure. So in theory, your turns 3, 4, and 5 are Unison, Buu, and Bojack combined. You really want to play all of them, and that way your opponent has to keep clearing multiple big threats, because if any one of these stick, and it doesn't take more than one, If one of these cards stick through to turn 6, then a Rogue, Tragedy, or Android 17 will end the game on the spot because it'll be coupled with a big established threat that's already there. So the mid game is really setting up for that late game, and these cards either stall, like the Boo Unison, or prepare for that end game kill for having a big threat on the board, whether it be a big dual attack double striker or a big dual attack triple striker.
Yeah, you're not wrong indeed. And talking about that late game power that this deck has, we have 3 cards here. Now I'm going to try to give it a quick go at briefly explaining the true power behind these cards, but it is hard to really grasp how strong this 3-card combo is. So with this deck, you're generally going to be on 6 energy by, I would say, turn 4, at least. Turn 4 sounds about right, Anthony?
Turn 4 is very, very common, and if it didn't happen on turn 4, it's guaranteed on turn 5.
Yeah. So by turn 4, a lot of time you're going to have that 6 energy, which means you can drop SS4 Vegeta, Rise of the Super Warrior. And as I showed in that little graph at the start of the game, you really win against those like decks that win turn 4 onwards. So on turn 4, you get to drop this. He's a 30k blocker, but you also get to charge up to 4 energy, which is really important. So if you have 6 on turn 4, and you look at your opponent and you're like, okay, cool, Tragedy's either going to win me the game next turn, or a combo of Android 17 turning the tide and Baby Ape are going to win me the game. You can charge the relative amount of energy to then play these big boss monsters the turn after and really just win the game from there. Like, being able to turn 5 drop Tragedy Overground is one of the most ridiculous things in the game, and like Zamasu can do it turn 4, except Zamasu as a deck doesn't have any other pressure besides that combo, whereas this still has a bunch of big boss monsters that it just plays. So that is the real power behind this late game push, is SS4 Vegeta just setting up early for those bigger late game plays. But I'll let Anthony explain it in a bit more detail.
Yep. So if Tragedy is your win con and you happen to have it in hand, then when you play Vegeta on 6 energy, you charge at least 2 of the cards that you see, and the other 2 cards are added to your hand for potential defensive power, unless you only need one of them, in which case charging an extra one beyond that is actually quite a good thing to do a lot of the time. It really depends as to what you pick up and what the actual game state is. If you've stabilized previously, then you might keep less cards in your hand. But the reason to get to 8 energy specifically is that your following turn, you're going to charge the 9th one, so you don't actually need to be on 9 after playing SS4. It's more so make sure that you have at least 9. And usually you'll play Tragedy when you already have your Unison on the board. So if you can pay 9 for it and then untap 1, you're not going to be even untapped after playing Tragedy, so that's always worth noting. When it comes to playing Android 17, you've always got to be on the lookout for a Rogue Jiren, and the decks that typically play the 2-drop Jiren that would prevent you from wiping their hand and would instead result in only you wiping your own hand, which is obviously to be avoided. The decks that bother to run Jiren are the ones that can't kill you early, and which means you typically have the ability to wait a little bit longer to drop it anyway. So if you wait until you get to 12 energy, then they can't stop it. So the main play would be if you get to 7 energy and drop a Vegeta at that moment, then you could charge 4, get to 11, and charge number 12 the following turn. More often what occurs is, as a course of stabilizing the game, you'll get to like 6 energy, you'll try and drop an SS4, you might charge 2 of them, and then the following turn you'll play SS4 number 2. And that's more the common way that it happens, because that'll get you up to 10 or 11 energy, and then the turn after that you kill them. But it's really a matter of using the SS4 as a setup tool. Into blue, it's worth noting that you might say, but he might God Sealing my SS4. Blue in general doesn't have the ability to kill you on a crackback because they don't have the ability to generate enough attacks to break through your defense. So you actually don't mind them God Sealing your Vegeta, because if they're God Sealing Vegeta, then they're running out of God Sealings for the Bojack on your opponent's turn. And if they're God Sealing the Bojack, they're not going to be able to stop the Vegeta. And when you're doing it on both turns, you can quite literally run your opponent right out of God Sealings. So against blue, you don't really care. And against the other decks, they can't stop SS4 Vegeta unless it's yellow, in which case you have to hope that if they have like a Cold Bloodlust or a Super 17 SCR, well, that's a one-of they play into. But again, they don't have the power to kill you on the crackback either. So you're not really worried if one of them gets stopped, because there's 2 more to come after that. it's really a case of don't be afraid to even have it not hit the board or its skills negated, because at the point at which it does hit, you will win the following turn.
Yeah, that is indeed true. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you still run internal energy shift. Is that correct?
Not in my latest build, because it didn't meld as well with the hyper aggro that was King Vegeta. But if the format was to slow down and that deck was to get hits and Dark Broly was to get hit, then internal energy shift would come right back in.
Yeah. And if you're just wanting a deck to beat other blue decks, you can put internal energy shift in there. That plus the Gohan blocker, blue can't really get through because it doesn't have good barrier removal.
Yeah. And it's really disgusting because it also means that Gohan can attack and then get restored should it not get through.
Yeah.
Anyone wanting any random extra value off Gohan, pro tip, if they have a little dude in rest mode that's vulnerable and you don't mind if the Gohan swing doesn't get through, swing into it, and either they have to lose like a super combo plus to try and defend it, and if they don't, you kill the thing for free, Gohan restands, and untap for free energy. Yay.
Yeah, untapping free energy is always fun. But thank you very much, Anthony, for coming on for the umpteenth billion time to talk about your favorite, your baby deck SS4 Vegeta. And congratulations on topping once again. I'm sure we'll probably have you on again next time there's a regionals and you top with SS4 again and you got some new spice. But until then, thank you very much, Anthony. Do you have anything to say before signing off?
No, I'm all good here. Thanks very much again for having me. And yeah, I agree. This deck's too strong. Ban everything in it. Stop me from entering events. Don't let me top. Don't let anyone else do anything. Ban Broly. Remove King Vegeta from the meta, and I might decide to play something else at some point eventually. But no, look, in all seriousness, guys, the deck's a lot of fun. It's a really, really powerful deck. And if you get the practice in to know how to defend the early turns and you get to that later game, you should have a lot of fun with this deck.
Indeed, indeed. And look, Anthony, the next time we have you on here, if the channel grows quickly enough, we'll have you show off your spicy Dende deck.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys, and we'll catch you next time.